Alright, morning guys. I thought I'd do a quick video. It's not going to be really any how-to, it'll just kind of be what I did. I'm really trying to get this truck on the road. I need it for a whole bunch of projects around the property. So between any video that I made before where the engine was out, the engine's completely in, front end's on, had to buy a bunch of stuff for the truck. As far as putting it back together, some of the parts were rusty, and so LMC truck helped with a lot of the hard to find parts, but not helped, I mean, I was able to get the parts there. So I am making an exhaust for this thing. The muffler was junk, part of the exhaust was corroded and rusty, meaning it was almost no good. So I figured maybe this would help somebody to go through the parts. A little bit about the exhaust. So the hardest part about fabbing this exhaust up was getting placement under the vehicle, and as sort of freeform or backwoods as it sounds, baling wire was super helpful. So I basically made loops to hold it at height, and then I pulled each end whatever direction I wanted to line it up with the vehicle or the frame or whatever. And then once I got it lined up, then I started adding my pieces that actually connected it together. And I'll kind of explain that. So I'll go grab a piece. So as an example, this is a Flowmaster exhaust. I got almost the stock quietness, a little above. I can't remember which one it was, but I don't want it to be real throaty, and it's going to be pretty loud anyways. But I bought these turbo clamps, and I just made sure that I actually took like a wood belt sander and I faced the ends of this I didn't need to, this stock had good ends, but any of the cuts I made with a die grinder or with a sawzall with a metal blade, I cleaned them up with a belt sander so that I had a clean end to weld these turbo clamps. And you can see that they went on really easy. And sorry, I have to be doing these videos. Yeah, they went on really easy. And so this was, I actually hung this up in place and made sure I had it positioned side to side and this way with the baling wire, and then I positioned another piece next to it. I'll go grab that. So I bought a kit off eBay, and it came with a muffler and two mandrel bent pieces, this being the most important one. My original exhaust was done in a muffler shop, and they use those wrinkle benders, and I'm not super keen on that. I think it was like 100 and something, 160 for the kit. Again, got the turbo flange welded on this side. This OD of this is not a true 3-inch, so it sits inside the flange a tiny bit. So I took a square, small framing square, and taped a piece of plywood here that it would clear the edge of this, and I was able to check it in this direction. Sorry, the camera, you guys are going to figure this out. So I was able to check it this direction and this direction to make sure that it wasn't caulked on there, because any little change in plane here affects the pipe a lot, because you're working, this is 3 inches, so an eighth out here would end up being an inch or two out at the other end. So I just had to be really careful. I just made sure that I actually just made sure that this was square to this. So again, I held this up in here about like that, and I was able to just use baling wire in a couple spots to kind of put tension on it and hold it in place and check all my measurements. And then lastly, this is the part I fabbed up. So this comes from the header, and it goes into your cat, and when I took the cat off, someone had welded a bunch of pipe down the end and scabbed it on typical exhaust job style, you know, different sizes, scabbed to different stuff, and it just looked like crap. And when I took it off, because it was an end that uses those hoop clamps, it crushes the pipe, so you basically are stuck with air hammering off the end. So it just demolished the end, taking it off. And so it ends up that's, you know, there's just real cheap stuff on eBay. So these clamps are about 15 bucks each. This collector was, I think, another 15 or 20. They're 2 3/4 primaries, or 2.5. No, these are 2.5-inch primaries. Can't quite remember. But I went to the local steel shop, and so you'll have, if you're doing this, you'll have to measure your primaries on your vehicle. I went to the local steel place, the kind of metal recycling. I just found this tube laying. This is actually stainless tube. It was an 8-foot long piece. It had a dent in it. Got it for scrap price. It actually, by sheer chance, perfectly slips inside this collector. So you can see that the collector, the center to center spacing is bigger than the center to center spacing on the headers. So if you look at this shape overall, there's some taper to it. It actually gets bigger down at the collector end here. It gets, and it's fine. So a little bit about this piece. So the way I got the shape for the header portion on these old Fords, they've got a 2-to-1 collector, and it goes into the cat, and the cat's just a big oval on one end. You've got your header on one side and an oval. And I knew I was going to go to this Y-pipe type thing that I made here. Hopefully the primaries aren't too long. Basically, I took regular masking tape and taped the header side, and then I taped it over. No, I'm sorry. Then I took a razor blade and cut all the openings out and cut the exterior shape out. And then I took blue painter's tape and went over that. That's why you can see two different colors here. And the blue painter's tape just gave me some backing. You know, this thing's stiff now instead of being, when you peel it off, wanting to curl up. And it gave me some contrast as far as being able to find centers of holes. So I used this, and what I did is, this is facing, if I'm under the car, this is facing towards the back. So I labeled up. I put an arrow. You guys probably can't see it, but this is up. And so when I kept this clean and sticky, it's not now, but it was, and I was able to stick it down on my steel blank, use permanent marker, and trace out the shape. And then I was able to use a a compass, and I was able to find center of the large holes. You can go on YouTube and look up how to do that, but basically you use a compass, and it's pretty simple to find centers. So this template went on that metal piece and made an exact copy. Now I used a plasma cutter to cut the outside out. I made a wooden template, and I used the compass to make an offset for the half the distance of the plasma cutter cup. So if you've never used a plasma cutter, basically you'd want to cut on the center line. This would be the center line of the cup. I offset outward to account for the edge of the cup. Anyways, it worked pretty good. It's a little oversized, but the shape's there, same. And then, so when I got this thing all cut out, I used, so you don't have to, you could use a cutoff wheel. I used 2.5-inch hole saw with the part clamp down, and got those cut. I used a Harbor Freight drill bit set, the good ones, the Cobalt set for these holes, and that worked really well. And so I got that shape. Again, you wouldn't have to have a plasma cutter to cut the outside out. In fact, you could just make a square, because you can't see it under there. And then what I did is I staked the face that faces back and up so that I knew how to orient the part. So that is this piece here. 2.5-inch hole saw. The teeth are staggered enough that these 2.5-inch tubes exactly fit. And if you guys can see it, I just inset them to where they're flush basically with the edge right here. I didn't weld this side. I welded this side so I didn't have as much of a chance of punching through, because you've got real thick metal and real thin metal. It worked great. I've got this paint on here is because the weld is mild steel and I welded to stainless, so the weld will rust. And I just didn't have argon, and I even have a TIG welder. I just didn't have an argon tank to do it, so it was just quicker and easier to MIG everything together. But yeah, this was the hardest part, and I got this cut and welded in 2 days of like a couple hours in the morning, because it gets to 100 here, so I hate working in the afternoon. But it was pretty easy. So I will get some shots underneath the vehicle when I get this bolted back in, and we'll wrap the video up. Alright guys, this is a bit of freehand. If it's shaky, I don't mean for it to be. So there's the exhaust mounted under there. Here's my first turbo clamp right here, and what that allows me to do is, if I don't quite like how this is positioned, I can still rotate it before I hook my exhaust hangers on. You can see right there, there's some baling wire on that bend. There's baling wire right here to support the back of the muffler. Originally I had one up front here too, but I took it off once I made that piece. The muffler right now is actually sitting downhill, so I can adjust that up and down, which it needs to be done. You can see this is a touch low. In fact, the way this is made, this kind of kicks uphill a little bit, which I didn't mean for it to do. That's just the way it is. So you can see down here, you can see how that's made. My concern at this point is that it's going to be extremely loud. That exhaust hanger up there is cracked at the flange, so I gotta weld that across when this comes back out. But these turbo clamps right here, made for 1,000 times easier slip it instead of slip installation. I can't believe they don't use them everywhere. Yeah, so I wish I would have held this a touch higher. One of the problems you run into, I'll show you guys in the back. So one of the problems I ran into is right back there at the gas tank where this comes down. It's a little close. What I should have done, so if any of you get the eBay kits, I think I would have taken, let's rotate back around here. I think I would have taken about 1 inch off the factory end here and brought this whole hoop set up over the axle forward a touch. So it just so happens that I would have shortened this, but you know, hindsight's always 20/20. So I'm going to get hangers in back there, and I'm going to make them removable. I'm going to get right here, these two hangers are also going to come down, and there's going to be tabs right here that are removable. I'll probably get one final picture of that before I'm done. So that'll make it so when I want to pull this off, I can just take bolts off from under the tabs. You'll see. Anyways, we'll look at that next. Alright guys, it's been a couple days. New forest fire started, so I haven't been able to get out here. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. Basically, I wanted to show you guys the hanger setup. I haven't wire wheeled that, but it's basically just a tab and then a nut welded onto a J-bolt. They're all stainless steel. Not that that matters. But you can see I just fabbed up my own J-bolts, and I made these tabs out of 1/4 or by 1/8 stainless flat bar. And I've got 2 here, and I'm gonna flip you guys over. Sorry about all the movement. But you can also see there's one back there as well. And you can see I had to bend that one at a slight angle to get it to go in. But 3 and this exhaust is going nowhere. Now there should be one right there, which is down from the muffler, but I'm not using it because the exhaust is so stiff I don't need it. If I end up needing it down the road, they're real easy to fabricate. So anyways, this about does it for the video. Turbo clamps, make your own J-bolts. My glasses. Alright guys, I hope this helps somebody, and it's just been a quick little video on what I did. Talk to you guys later. Bye.